Hey there, drone fans. Rick here again from Drone Valley. Today's clip is going to cover another exciting technology I got a chance to look at last week when I was at the NAB conference in Las Vegas. Now, I went out there with maybe 6 or 10 companies that I was intent on talking to because I felt like they built innovative technology or revolutionary devices that would be of interest to you guys, and this company is no exception. They were pretty close to the top of my list. It took me a little bit of time to find their booth, but it was well worth the effort because I got a chance to play with the tech, talk to the engineers, actually fly with these particular products to get a feel for what they're about, and more importantly, ask the hard questions I know you guys are going to have about the technology. So the company is Epson, the product is Moverio. Now Moverio has got a couple of generations out. The one I'm going to talk about today is the BT-300 goggles. They're augmented reality goggles. And like I said, they've had a couple of generations before. So their first product was the BT-100. Then they released the BT-200, which was an improvement, and the latest iteration is the BT-300, specifically the BT-300 FPV for first-person view, which is built specifically for quads. Now, they make other models of the BT-300 that can be used for augmented reality tours at museums or theme parks, but they built this particular version for you and me to fly my quad in the air and have a first-person view of what I'm doing. And I gotta be honest with you, I've seen the other tech that they put out. This thing is head and shoulders above it. It's just an astoundingly clear picture because the technology behind it is revolutionary. It's based on a brand new silicon OLED display. Now, Epson's been in the market of projectors forever, but they own this. They've developed it themselves, they've put it in these glasses themselves, and they've built an incredibly crisp display. Now, what's different about this, the silicon organic light emitting diode technology allows them to create a smaller package and still give you an incredibly crisp, bright picture that'll blow you away. When you put these goggles on and look at what that camera's looking at, it's astoundingly clear. You feel like you're right in the quad flying it. Now, again, the miniaturization of it is the key. It's hard to get all that stuff packed into a small place. So a lot of the innovations that they put into this came out of the development laboratories, and I really asked them a lot of hard questions about that, and I'll get into that in a second. Before I do, though, I want to talk about flying FPV in general. So up until now, if you want to fly FPV, you're probably going to slap on a pair of goggles. Now, whether you use a dedicated pair of goggles like the Fat Sharks, or you use a Litchi app on your phone and slide it into one of the VR goggle sets out there, or even if you go for something like the brand new DJI goggles, which were also announced at the show, which I did use, and those are amazing. If you're going to go with goggles, those are the ones to own. But either way, if you put goggles on your head, when you pull those goggles down over your eyes, it's like you've walked into a dark movie theater, and that screen is what you're looking at through the camera on the quad, which is a tremendously immersive experience. 3 seconds into it, you feel like you're in the quad. You forget that you're standing in a field someplace and feel like you're in the quad flying, which just kind of, it changes your perception of reality. It really does change things for you. It's an unbelievably cool experience. The downside to goggles, though, is that you can't be watching that movie and watching your quad at the same time. And because the FAA mandates that you've got to keep a visual line of sight of your quad, putting those goggles on means you got to have a spotter with you. So taking somebody along to fly with the goggles on means that, you know, you've got 2 people on every trip you go out, and honestly, it's kind of boring for the person watching while you're flying and having all the fun. These goggles are different because they're not immersive like that. They're augmented reality, which means you're actually looking through a piece of glass at your quad while you're flying. So you can keep visual line of sight through the glasses, and if you want to see what's in the camera and what you're recording, you glance down and you've got this gigantic screen of exactly what's being recorded through that camera. Now, I know they're going through the approval process. I don't think this fully satisfies the visual line of sight requirement from the FAA yet, but I expect they'll get approval for that because I could make the argument pretty simply that me using a tablet or a phone and looking down at that tablet, for me to look up from that tablet and find my quad in the sky is a whole lot more work than me looking through a set of goggles and keeping that quad sort of in my line of sight while I'm looking at what I'm flying. So I fully expect they're going to get approval for that, but for the time being, if you're going to use these goggles, make sure you have somebody with you as a spotter. All right, so back to the technology. So it's based on that silicon OLED technology, but the questions I was asking them were really hard questions to answer because the first thing I said was, well, okay, so I've got the goggles. What do I do? How do I connect them up with my controller? Do they have an HDMI input? And honestly, an HDMI input doesn't solve the problem for a lot of my quads because even though some of my bigger quads have an HDMI output from the controller or from the phone, a lot of them don't. Like the Mavic doesn't have a built-in HDMI connection. And they had an answer for it. And they said, well, we built this special interface that's based on an Android operating system, and it's got a very powerful quad Atmos processor in there, so it's got a lot of beefy processor power to run the application. They actually run a version of DJI Go on that little module. and the module takes the place of your phone or your tablet. So basically, the module snaps into your controller, you make a connection to the bottom through the USB connection, and you're off and flying. And all the control you need is in that module. And the module's got a joystick on the top, it's got some dedicated buttons. Now it is based on Android OS, it's a custom version of it. So if you're an iOS guy, you may not like that. But for me, I don't really care. That's just plumbing for me to get to my drone. So I wanna use it, and I don't really care what operating systems run underneath, really what hardware's run underneath. I just want to be able to fly my drone and enjoy that experience. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. But it is kind of neat that they built this closed system. Now, if you're flying the Phantom 4 Pro, you've got the same kind of closed system there, because that Phantom 4 Pro controller has a dedicated monitor in it that's got a custom version of Android running on it. And you can't really load other applications on it. Kind of the same thing here. Although they did hint that their Moverio App Store, which is where you download the applications, was going to expand to maybe other applications being downloaded to that controller. So we'll have to see how that plays out. So my next question was, okay, if I'm running a dedicated version of DJI Go on there and I have to get it from your App Store, how much of a delay is there going to be when they release an update to their application? And he had an answer for that. The coolest part is they're working with DJI, and I think there's going to be an announcement coming where you can actually buy these on the DJI website as an alternative, use case for the goggles. But they work with the DJI development engineers, so they've got access to their SDK, which is their software development kit. They get releases of their firmware probably earlier than they're actually published, and they're part of the quality control team. So they actually download it, they run it through its paces, they do due diligence against it to make sure that it works with their application, and they almost simultaneously release it from their app store the same time DJI does. So there's not a lot of lag there. And honestly, I don't run out and get the latest version of firmware in anything. I want to let it settle for a week. I'll check the boards and make sure nobody else is having a horrible experience with it before I actually update my quad. So it made me feel pretty good that they're doing the due diligence of actually running it through its paces and making sure that it's solid. All right, so back to the interface. So in addition to it being just a set of goggles that you can fly with FPV, just a set of goggles, the fantastic set of goggles. In addition to that, they've got a 5 megapixel camera on the front of it. So I can actually be, and an SD card in the side where you can record video. So I can actually be watching my quad, watching what I'm seeing through the camera, and recording my quad or recording the area around me. How cool is that, right? So I've got a lot of different things going on. You can also use, I believe, that SD card to watch movies on it. So if you're a geek like me and you don't mind people snickering, you can put these things on the plane when you're flying across the country and watch a movie, through augmented reality. I just think there's tremendous potential for this down the road. So I'm going to go through the interview in a minute. The last thing I wanted to mention is they've also built in features to this that are kind of future looking. So for example, it's got a full Wi-Fi connection complement. It's got Bluetooth connectivity. It's got a bunch of different sensors in there for motion on your head. So they've built in all kinds of specialized sensors around GPS coordination, magnetometers in there. They've got an accelerometer in there. They've got a gyro in there. So they're looking to really develop a very custom application for this headset down the road. They kind of hinted that they're working on it already. That gives you a different experience than the DJI Go app would give you, a much more immersive experience, almost like you're a fighter pilot with a pop-up display in front of you that gives you custom information on exactly what's going on with your quad. So I think the future is really, really big for this. You can get about a 6-hour use out of it on a full charge, which is pretty good. And then beyond that, there's a lot of other things that are coming for it. So let me run the interview now, and then I'll come back and give you some wrap-up comments at the end of it. I have to tell you, I was expecting it to be good. When I put these things on and they put that quad up inside of the cage and it was flying against the simulated background, I was blown away. I was really blown away by it. It is that cool. So hang on, let me run the interview and I'll be back in a minute. Hey there, drone fans. Rick here again from Drone Valley. I'm at the Epson booth with Mike, and we're looking at the new Moverio goggles. Now, you guys know that DJI just released their goggles this morning. Fantastic set of goggles. I'm here to tell you, these are absolutely cool. They are FPV, but you can see through them. So you're not blocking your view like a standard goggle would block. You can actually see through them, and they've figured out, they've unlocked the way to sort of connect this up to your Mavic controller, which is really unique. So it's got a nice little bracket. It's got a closed system here with Android inside of it that's running the DJI Go app. So all you do is connect this up to your Mavic controller through the USB connection, and you're off and running. It's just a fantastic view. I can't describe it and I can't show you. How long was this in development? This is your 3rd generation product?
This is Gen 3, so first one came out as early as 2011, and they've been working on it several years before that. All of it comes from Epson's projector technology.
Right.
So they just miniaturize projectors and put one in each side of the glasses.
Right. What I like so much about this as opposed to a standard goggle is that with the goggles, it's a totally immersive experience. But if I look up, I have to see my unit, so I have to pull the goggles off, and then I've got all kinds of issues. I always fly with a spotter,
Sure.
but seeing through these to actually see what's going on is really a major advantage over what goggles will do. It's not as immersive, but I get both views. I get a view of the FPV and I get a view of a quad. So in addition to that, now this closed Android system is loaded with the latest versions of DJI Go, and you get those right away from DJI.
That's correct. So we preload some of the apps. Right now, just the DJI Go app on there. But there's a little standalone apps market called Moverio Apps Market, similar to Google Play, iOS Market, or Amazon, which is very small. So every time DJI does a new build, they'll send it to us. We are about a week delayed because we have to test it on our end with all the different aircraft. But then we do that. 4.0.6 or 3.1.7. We just put the new builds on there right after they come out.
Now we're showing this on the Mavic here, but it's got a standard connection that you can use on other units as well, right?
Everything from the Osmo all the way up to the Trees.
Even the Osmo. Wow, that's fantastic. So Osmo, Phantom, Inspire, the M200 commercial products.
We just started testing with that one with the whole Crystal Sky setup. It's a little different. But in theory, everything works as long as it's an Android app. So DJI Vision, DJI Go, DJI Go 4. We've tested some of the ecosystem apps like Drone Deploy, etc. M200, we don't own one in the office yet, so I haven't been able to test that one fully.
Go over there to the booth and see if you can get
exactly.
loose. All right, so in addition to that, my other question was the future of these things. Like, I love the fact that they're FPV and I can fly my quad with them, but I'm wondering, augmented reality seems to be taking off like crazy. So I'm sure there are other applications this can be used for. I can imagine walking through a museum or something like that, looking at a picture and having information come up. I'm sure you guys are working on that kind of stuff.
You're all over it. So if any of your listeners or viewers are in Europe, about 10 to 20 installations currently, where you can rent Moverio for about €5 to €6 for an hour, just like you would rent one of those audio guides. Absolutely right. Mainly used as like a visual experience as opposed to just audio. We use them in some stadiums. We're used in some theme parks. Anywhere, as you said, where you want to just add a little bit of digital information to the real world.
Wow, that's fantastic. And then the last thing, and this is kind of big news, you're not just out there as a private guy selling these. You've actually got a partnership with DJI. And what you were saying before is they're going to actually offer them on the DJI website.
Yes, so we're partnering very closely with them. We go to Shenzhen to work with their team to say, how can we really ensure this is very closely integrated? Right now, the cool thing we can talk about is we're working with their SDK team, their software team, to build a new application. The one you saw today is just regular Go and Go 4 that you would have had on your iPhone or your Android phone. It looks good, but the cool thing is the new one will be more like a heads-up display for a pilot. And that will be built for the glasses, so it won't just be that phone experience. Maybe it'll have gimbal control with your head. Maybe it'll have quick switch between all the different views. We're exploring right now.
See, the gimbal control thing is cool, and I've used that on other VR goggles, but it can also be dangerous.
That's the thing.
Because there have been times where I forgot I had the headset on, I went to land the drone, took it off, and the thing flew up and hit a tree.
Absolutely. We have to be careful about that.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So retail price on these?
These retail for $7.99.
Okay. So I can see that being very appetizing to like an Inspire 2 commercial, even the Phantom drone flyers. And I fly the Mavic more than I fly anything else. I got to get a set of these.
We're excited to hear it. We'll get you one soon.
All right, good. I'm going to hold them today. You guys saw it on tape. All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Pretty cool technology, and I was actually thrilled that those guys gave me that much time for the interview, spent as much time with me, let me fly the thing and play with the technology and answered all the hard questions. I mean, they're proud of this product, and they ought to be, because it's really, to me, an engineering marvel. I can't get over how every week it seems like a new company is coming out with some groundbreaking technology that looks like it should have been developed in the NASA lab. It really it enchants me as a geek to know that I'm living in a time where something goes from the drawing board to production that quickly and really enhances my flying experience just by popping them on my head. I just can't get over how much technology is packed into that tiny little set of goggles. It just blows me away. Anyway, I appreciate you guys watching these clips. I've got a link down below if you want to buy these on Amazon or go check them out on Amazon. And again, they're live products. This isn't a development effort that'll be coming out in 2 years. These are goggles you can buy today, have them delivered in 3 days, put them on your head and go out and fly. So enjoy them. I did bug them a lot in the clip about sending me a set to review. I'm hoping that happens. I don't think it's a legally binding contract, but I'm going to try and hold them to it. If I get a set of these, trust me, I'm going to do the Drone Valley review of them. I'll tear them apart, take a look at them, really give you the skinny on how they perform. But the little bit of time I was able to spend with them at the show, I think it's a fantastic alternative if you're going to fly FPV. I love the DJI goggles, and if you're looking for that immersive experience, pop those on your head and you can go off and fly. These, to me, are a different experience completely, and I almost could make an argument that both of those are cool enough where I may have a set of each. So let's see how that plays out. Anyway, thanks an awful lot for watching. I've got a lot more content coming this week, so if you're enjoying it, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter. I've got some stuff I'm throwing out on Twitter with pictures and things from the show. I've also got a Patreon account set up. I've talked about that before. If you want to support the channel, head over there and you can throw a couple of bucks at us to help us fund these kind of efforts. But at the end of the day, for me, it's all about the technology, and I want to bring you as much as I can about this emerging technology, and more importantly, the engineering behind it, which is really kind of where I live. So thanks an awful lot for watching. Hope you're having a good time out there and you're getting plenty of flight time with your quads. Happy flying.